Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone. As I get to ride home with you in the afternoon, you can find us on television, syndicated on Abundance Television. That's found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. You can also find us on radio now. Yeah, we're on WZLA 92.9 FM. They are a country giant right here in South Carolina. Glad to be with them as well. Continue sending email, Donna at donnasedge.com, Donna at donnasedge.com. It's always so great to hear from you. You're not bothering me one bit. Continue sending those emails. I am with my new friend, Michael Maibach, and we are very similar in the way we think. And I love my country, and I love the founding fathers of this country as well. And you bring a lot to this show, so we always appreciate every segment we can get with you, Michael. So how have you been doing? Is it raining in your neck of the woods?
No, ma'am. I'm in Virginia, and we have cool but sunny weather.
Well, we're going to get it later this week, but we need it. We have somewhat of a drought here, so we have to have the rain to help out with that drought. Okay, I know you had a presentation for us that you put together, and you do travel. Yeah. You're out and you speak with groups as well. So what do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, I work with two groups. One is called Save Our States. The other is American Constitutional Rights Union. And we give free speeches. I know people believe in free speech. I give free speeches around the country to civic groups, to schools, high schools, colleges, Republican and Democrat groups, if invited. And we talk about the Constitution, very often the Electoral College. And our topic today is that since 2006, there's a group of individuals in primarily California at the outset that are trying to get rid of the Electoral College through a interstate compact called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. And we don't believe it's constitutional because there is a compact clause. The founders, when they wrote the Constitution, didn't want the large states, which were 4 in number, ganging up on the small states, which were 9 in number, the ones with very small populations, Delaware, Georgia, Rhode Island, others. 4 large states, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, and Massachusetts, which included Maine at the time, had the big cities, including New York, Philadelphia, Boston. And then Virginia, just as one of the original colonies and then states, had more people than any other state, as it turned out. But Virginia had 750,000 people, for example, and Georgia had 75,000 people, so 1/10 the population. So they were worried that the large states would gang up on them. It's one of the reasons we have the Electoral College. And the Compact Clause says that 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 states, whatever the number, can't get together and decide to do something, changing the Constitution, without the U.S. Congress passing a law or passing a resolution that allows them to have the states vote on a compact. But that has not, the National Popular Vote, or what we call NPV compact, has not been brought to the Congress because the small states in the U.S. Senate, 2 votes per state, would not allow the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact to go forward. So they're trying to go around it really to create a constitutional crisis on election night, to make a point. Very often, unfortunately, on the left, it's all about chaos. Think of what's happened to San Francisco and Chicago and New York. Chaos is sort of what happens when you don't understand the nature of the human condition.
Right, and it's chaos and confusion and just all the above, a way to divide as well.
Right. And, you know, they like to say, don't let a good crisis go to waste. And how do we create crisis? You know, COVID was a crisis. You know that 22 states changed their election laws during COVID, 22 states. So all of a sudden we have drop boxes, so you don't have to even go into you have early voting. And here in Virginia, we have 45 days of early voting. It's terrible. And so we just now have a candidate for attorney general that some texts have come out that he wanted to have the Speaker of the House shot with 2 bullets and his children to die. And we're in the middle of voting for, and now people are saying, gee, I voted for the guy and now I don't want to anymore. And then ballot harvesting, which they do in California, you can go into apartment complexes or nursing homes and give people ballots and have them, quote, vote. And then you come out of the building with 50 ballots, and there's no check on what you've done inside that building or whether or not anybody was even involved other than yourself. So
let me ask you a question. This is about early voting. Are we really seeing people that are voting that early, or are they still waiting until voting day?
Oh, no, there's lots of people. I've already voted early. So it does, one thing it does is there are no lines when you have 45 days of early voting. Excuse me. And Minnesota, I believe, has 47. They have the most. And then Virginia. And it's almost always the project of one party wanting to do this. And one of the reasons is because, the traditional voting system we had in America until COVID was you voted on election day. Isn't that a unique idea? And so each party, whatever it is, it could be the Libertarian Party, the Democratic, Republican Party, everybody had poll watchers, right? I mean, when I was growing up, my mother was a poll watcher every election at the neighbor's garage where we voted in our neighborhood. And then I have, as a young man, been a poll watcher where I sit there all day or half of a day, and I just make sure, and there's a person from the other parties right there on the table with me, we would hear of any discussions like, well, look at this ID and it doesn't look right or something, and we could file challenges. Well, if you have 45 days of early voting, no party has 45 days of volunteers. They just don't, because you're talking about six or 8 hours a day. People have lives, they have jobs, they have grandchildren, they have all kinds of things. They're not. So in effect, it's done away with our poll watching system the way we had it on the election day. And also you have different facts. The people voting for Attorney General of Virginia tomorrow, let's say, they have different facts than 2 weeks ago when we found out about the text from this candidate, Mr. Jones, who had these very violent texts about what he wants to do to the Speaker of the House of the Virginia legislature. 2 bullets to the head is what he said in his text. And then when the legislator who he was sending these to asked him, called him up and said, he said, well, I hope his 2 children die because maybe tragedy is the only thing to change people's mind in politics. It was really quite stunning. And now
anybody like that.
This is, you can see it online. It's quite stunning what he said. And but hundreds of thousands of people have already voted for him.
Let me ask you a question. Is there a way to repeal your vote? Should that be
there is not. It's one and done. There's no change in. That's why early voting is so unwise.
Yeah.
And look, if we have terrible problem with long lines and crowds, well, let's have more poll stations.
Right. That makes more sense, and you're spending less money that way too.
When Walmart has too many customers, they don't say, well, then stop. What they say is, let's give more stores.
Right.
Let's have more employees. So, our government get plenty of money. State and federal and local government gets $7 trillion or more in this country. They can afford to have more polling stations if that's the problem, getting people through. After the 2000 vote, which was Bush v. Gore, Gore won about 250,000 more votes than Mr. Bush did. And that's happened 3 or 4 times in our history. where in the aggregate one candidate. But we have 50 elections. We have 50 state elections, and then we aggregate them just like the World Series and any other sports event. You aggregate how many runs or games. You don't get to the Super Bowl with the most points, but rather the most games. And Bush won, I think it was 27 states to Gore's 23, something like that. But there's an effort that sprang up from California. We ought to have a national popular vote. It's not a new idea. Andrew Jackson didn't like the Electoral College, but this became a formal effort. And this is the man who's been funding it, among others. His name is John Koza. He's 70-some years old. He lives in California. He's an engineer, and he has the patent on the scratch-off lottery ticket process. So every time people buy lottery tickets, he gets a few cents, and he's using those cents, a lot of cents, to help pay for this campaign. Now, how does it work? It says that once a state passes this, and once they have 270 electors, which is what you need for success in the presidential election, it says that the states will direct their presidential electors to vote for whoever wins the national popular vote, even if our state voted for the other candidate or candidates. And there is no person that calculates the national popular vote other than CNN or Fox News with a calculator, because there is no government official that says, here's the national popular vote. Now, this is sort of a cartoon, but this is kind of where the people live in America. If you probably can't find North or South Carolina or Alabama on that map. 9 of our states have 51% of our people, and Iowa is not one of those 9 states. For example, New York has more people than 39 of our states. New York City. And LA County has almost 11 million people, which has more people than 41 of our states. Only California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, a few other states have more people than one county in California, Los Angeles County. And this is the counties in blue are 50% of our population. The counties in yellow are 50% of our population. And that's pretty much how our parties are aligned these days. The Democratic Party is very much a urban party. And of course, we have presidential electors, 1 per congressional district, and U.S. senator. So that's how we do this. But this is the Trump victory in 2024. It's very similar to the map I just showed. Mrs. Harris won the counties that are in blue, and Mr. Trump won what we often call flyover country, which is most of the country. And you can see how the major urban areas, they're the Boston and New York areas, DC, and Miami, and LA, Oregon, and Seattle, Oregon, Portland, et cetera, et cetera. So Trump won 31 states, 312 electoral votes, 49.8% of the popular vote, almost 50% of the popular vote. Most of our presidents don't actually win 50% or more. That's not how that works, because we have very close elections, mostly in America. But under the national popular vote, currently, if the 17 states that are in the compact had to use it, Trump would have won 520 electors, and Mrs. Harris only 18, because the states that have the national popular vote compact, like California, would have had to cast their electors for Trump. So it could backfire on them. But 17 states, which includes House, Senate, and governor, 17 states have passed the national popular vote compact. You can see them here, and DC, and they have a total of 209 electors in those 17 states. They need 270 electors. They have 209. If they have 270 electors, in other words, another 5 states or something, then we would have a constitutional crisis on election night. Um, we believe at Save Our States that in the next 2 years, the battleground states on this National Popular Vote Compact will be those listed, which is Nevada and Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and perhaps New Hampshire. Virginia, we're going to have an election next week. Well, a final election next year. We have 45 election days here in Virginia, unfortunately. And we'll find out if we have a governor of one party and a legislature of that same party, the Democratic Party. They may try to pass the National Popular Vote Compact. And so this is a slide that talks about, right now Arizona has a Democrat governor, but legislature is Republican. Michigan, they have a House that's Republican. Nevada has a governor. So these what we call purple states, which are mixed, those are the reasons we have them listed as toss-up states. There are some state legislatures in red, the three who passed resolutions in favor of keeping the electoral college system, just as sort of a philosophical resolution passed. And at Save Our States, we can offer speeches, serve on panels and be in debates, be part of state electoral college coalitions. We can give testimony, we give op-ed, we write op-ed essays, give interviews and podcasts like this, and we have educational materials at saveourstates.com. So with that, we should probably end the slides if you can do that.
Absolutely. And I do have a question for you, and this is about the possible backfire on the Democrats. So could that possibly, this must sound pretty far-fetched, but could that possibly end the Democrat Party?
Well, no, they're going to end it a different way, probably. They're jumping off cliffs all the time. But what would happen if they actually had 270 electors, if they get there? I don't know that they will. They're sort of running out of all blue states. But if they would get there on election night, we would have litigation. Lots of attorneys general in let's say red states, as they say, Republican states, would file litigation. It would immediately go to the Supreme Court that week. And the Supreme Court most likely would say that the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is unconstitutional because it's against state constitutions in many cases, certainly against the U.S. Constitution. But you have to understand, I think the people that want this, they want to create a controversy where the Supreme Court, like they did in 2000, has to declare a winner in a presidential candidate, for a presidential candidate. And therefore, they can say, see, isn't this terrible? We have to amend the Constitution because this system is unfair to the majority of people in America. The majority should always rule. Or let's pack the Supreme Court. When Mr. Biden was elected, there was talk about let's pack the Supreme Court, let's have more members. I mean, FDR, when he was president, talked about packing the Supreme Court. So it's not a new thought in American history. And very often the left will create crises or try to, or do things that create chaos and therefore lead to more government interference and things. So that's a very imperfect way of putting it, but certainly we would have a constitutional crisis if we had 270 electors trying to, and the presidential electors may refuse to do it. They may say, I'm not going to go to the state capitol and on demand by the state and vote for something that the people of this state didn't vote for.
Yeah, there are just too many factors I can see that can mess this whole thing up. If you choose to go that way.
Yeah. And how if we had a national popular vote, how would you have a recount? Would you recount 170 million ballots? Are you kidding? And we don't have equal protection of the law. For example, there's some states that have no early voting at all, and Minnesota has 47 days of early voting. And we have some states that have drop boxes, these in the neighborhoods, and other states that don't use that. We have 6 or 7 states that only use mail-in ballots. They don't have ballot boxes that you go and put your ballot into, but rather you put it through the U.S. mail. which is unsecured. As you know, nobody guards the mailboxes. I don't think there's a policeman at every mailbox. And yet lots of states use mail-in ballots. So we don't have equal protection of the laws in the sense that we have 50 different election systems. And to have a national popular vote, the Congress would have to take over running elections.
Okay, I've got a question for you. Okay, so I'm going to go back in time. I'm going to go back in time to 1995 when Phil and I owned an internet company. And it was dial up back in the day. So we had a lot of customers. Okay, and I'm telling you, as far as computers and the way they work, technology is much better now than it was then. However, we never had a problem sending out billing to our customers. There was never a thought process of, my point is this, it would take Phil about an hour to do the billing. An hour out of the day is not bad to send bills back in that day.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is it such an issue? Why do we have to wait hours and sometimes the next day? We should be sophisticated enough in our equipment when people vote that we should go in an instant. There should be something like a running tally going across the television screen. That so far we have this many people who have voted, even if it's midday. So what's the answer?
So Florida in the year 2000 was a disaster. We had the hanging chads, and we had, it was court cases and all kinds of county clerks recounting and having citizens come in and voluntarily look at every ballot. Today, Florida has the earliest, quickest election results of any state. It has to do with the governor and the legislature deciding that they're going to have better rules, better technology, more honest people. I mean, one of the things Governor DeSantis did was he removed certain election officials who had been in office who were part of the shenanigans, things going on. Remember in Pennsylvania in the 2020 election, we had videos of boxes of ballots being taken from under tables and then brought out after the polls voted. And people were very cynical. This led to the sense that was not a fair election. Now we're never going to know some of these things because it's quite an imperfect system. But we used to have much more integrity in our elections. And when you have early voting, where you have no poll watchers because of that, when you have boxes that are just out in the public, drop boxes, when you have ballot harvesting, this all undermines the faith in our democratic system. And but this has to do with government officials and what the legislatures, what laws they will pass. For example, we have 23 states that give driver's licenses to people that are here in America illegally. Well, once you have a driver's license, then you go into the polling place and say, well, I know I'm here illegally, at least, that's what's been alleged by the democratic system. And but this has to do with government officials and what the legislatures, what laws they will pass. For example, we have 23 states that give driver's licenses to people that are here in America illegally. Well, once you have a driver's license, then you go into the polling place and say, well, I know I'm here illegally, at least, that's what's been alleged by people. I'm sorry, there's construction all of a sudden going on here.
That's okay.
We can
still hear you. No, you're coming through still loud and clear.
Okay, all right. So anyway, the quality and timeliness of elections depends on the integrity of the governor and the state legislature and the local officials that all work together to have a result that everyone can trust.
Yeah, but this is my point. Okay, so my grandmother worked as a poll watcher, and she also, my entire life, that's all she ever did. And she loved doing this. my question is this: it was less complicated back then, but now that we have all this system together,
Yeah,
it seems to be much more complicated. It's not making any sense.
yeah,
They had ground rules; they could not leave, even if it was 2 o'clock in the morning. They could not leave until everything
yeah,
got counted.
right,
It's just the way it was, and they had rules, and they stuck to them.
right.
You know?
Well, sometimes there are people in American politics, usually on the left, that rather than change their policies, want to change the election process until they always win. And one of the examples is the National Popular Vote Compact. Let's change the rules of how we elect presidents until the big cities always rule. I mean, when you have, if we had a national popular vote, a candidate for president would go from Boston to New York, to DC area, to Miami, to Houston, to Dallas, to Chicago, to Denver, to LA, to San Francisco, to Seattle, and start again. Because that's half the voters in the country are in these major metropolitan areas. And you wouldn't ever have to go to Nebraska or Wyoming or Montana or West Virginia or all kinds of places, New Mexico, where we don't have millions of people living. And they would focus on just metropolitan areas. And yet, we require 5 acres to feed each person for a year. All the people that feed the cities would have no voice at all. They'd be serfs if we had a national popular vote. And Americans will not be serfs. They will not send their wheat and their corn and their cattle and eggs and milk and everything to cities that are ruling them. They'll just say, well, you make your breakfast yourself. I mean, Central Park is a big park in the middle of New York City, which has almost 9 million people, and is 843 acres in Central Park, and none of them are farmed. Not one of those acres is farmed. They don't grow anything, and yet there's almost 9 million people a year in every day in New York that eat. And where's that food come from? Well, Iowa, where we have our first primary, or it comes from Wisconsin and dairy farms and all the rest. So it's a wonderful nation of states, and every state has something to contribute. Some states have a lot of oil and natural gas, and we need that. And other states have soybeans, and other states have pumpkins and turkeys. I think Minnesota and North Carolina are tied for the number of turkeys that they produce. I think that's the 2 states. So we have the largest iron ore mine in the country is in Minnesota, in northern Minnesota, up on the Great Lakes, and very few people live there. But you can't make a car or a Caterpillar tractor or motor vehicle without iron ore and steel. And you have to start with that natural resource. It doesn't come from downtown Chicago. It comes from an iron mine and iron ore mine.
Well, I have a question about the natural flow of voting. And what I mean by that is we have the Eastern time zone all the way down to the Pacific time zone. You would think on the Eastern time zone, we would have it all done and forgotten about, and it just would be a natural line of descending. Voting, and that's another reason I don't understand why it should take so long to get the results from voting.
Yeah. Well, because we don't have Amazon running it, probably.
They don't have my husband running it.
They deliver my groceries in 4 hours or whatever. We just don't have in some states voting integrity because there are shenanigans. There's a county in Arizona, Maricopa County, which just every time they have an election, they always are late with the results. They ran out of ballots. The machines are not giving them the answers from the voting. There's always something fishy in the lake there,
well, I'm just telling you, you were working a job, you're working for a company, and you didn't order enough whatever, you didn't order enough paper, and you ran out of it. It'd just be your tough luck.
Yeah, it's just, just the last couple of elections, California results in some congressional districts takes days and weeks to get results. My gosh.
Makes no sense.
So this has to do with poor administration, non-transparency. I don't think most of these delays are by accident, but rather there are reasons of administration which could be identified and improved if they wanted to. So
I think so.
I'm not an expert.
We're going to have to go into a commercial break, but before we go, I'm going to say two things my husband could be responsible for. And no one can have him. Okay, so he stays here with this company. So when it comes to voting, I think you would have a much smoother transaction if you put him in charge of it. And another thing is Nancy Pelosi's house. You know, the break-in where they got I would think Nancy Pelosi has a much better security system than we do. And my husband installed it. We know when a fly goes by the camera.
Yeah.
Just ended on that. Maybe he needs to be doing things like that. We'll be into a commercial break and we'll return in just a few minutes.
All right, very good.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
At Liberty Bank, we're all about community. Whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need, toys at Christmas, or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462.
Okay, we're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show where truth matters. 20 years of this. Success because we have the world's best guest, and Michael Maibach is one of them. Thank you so much, Michael, for being with us on the show. Yeah, we laugh about the Nancy Pelosi thing all the time. They had a problem with the security system, and as rich as they are, while she's eating her designer ice cream, they were broken into. I just don't get it.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to mention about the national popular vote idea is that we are so fortunate to have a two-party system. We have had since our founding. The party system began inside the cabinet of George Washington, where Jefferson and Hamilton already had arguments about a national bank, about our foreign policy with England and the French, and other matters. And our two-party system started then. It was Federalists versus the Republicans, which became the Democrats. And then the Whigs come along when the Federalists go away, and then the Republicans rise up during the antebellum period before the Civil War, when the Kansas-Nebraska Act. And we've had those two parties, Democrat and Republican parties, really since 1854. The reason I mention that is the average European country has 9 parties, 9. And the Israelis have 10 for 10 million people. And the British have 10, and all of Europe has, on average, 9 parties because of these parliamentary systems. We have a two-party system because of the Electoral College, rather than the national popular vote. If we had a national popular vote, the two-party system inside of each party would be unimportant. It would only be the big cities. And therefore, let's say a billionaire with their own jet could just fly from city to city and run for president and would not need to depend on the electoral votes of lots of the states. They could just get popular votes. And we would have, let's say, 8, 9, 10, 12 parties. Just think of organizing the Speaker of the House. How do we elect a Speaker of the House with 10 parties or 7 parties? We're so lucky to have just 2 parties because it allows our state legislatures and our U.S. Congress to organize themselves, just two parties, and to rule in a way that isn't a coalition government. And in Europe, because of these coalition governments of, let's say, 9 parties, every year or two you have new prime ministers. The Italians, until recently, have had a new prime minister almost every year since the World War II. The Israelis have had 4 prime ministers in the last 6 years. The British, 4 prime ministers in the last 6 years. We have every 4 years, we have a new president. And so our system of the 2 parties comes from the Electoral College system. And it's just another benefit. And if we got rid of the National Popular Vote Compact, the party systems would disaggregate, and we would have very divisive coalitions within Congress.
Well, some people would argue that point with you. We kind of have 3. We've got that independent folks. And I'm just going to tell you my perspective of this. Had Trump run in the independent, I think he would have won and broken away from the Democrats and Republicans. I think it just, I don't know, because he was so popular. Yeah. I would have voted independent that year.
Yeah, and it's funny, we of all of our presidential candidates who have won, the one with the lowest popular vote percentage was Abraham Lincoln, 39.8%. So almost 40%, because there were 4 candidates. He wasn't on the ballot in many southern states. And so he had to win from in the north. He won 18 to the 33 states, all up the north, not in the south, because he was seen as a person that was not friendly towards slavery, obviously. The current prime minister of Italy got 26%, not 39.8%. And there is not one European leader right now, whether it's Mr. Merz in Germany or Keir Starmer in the UK, that has 40% of the vote. They're all in their 30s percent. Same with Canada, same with South Korea, with Australia, New Zealand. So these parliamentary systems that we do not have give you 25, 30, 35 percent prime ministers. No national popular vote at all in those countries. And we have almost 50%, like Mr. Trump, 49.8% of the vote. Most of our presidents are in the high 40s.
Mm-hmm. I found it interesting too. One time I did vote independent. That was the year of Papa Bush and Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
I just can't see myself with either one of them. I was not happy. My dad a Democrat, my mother Republican. I didn't tell him for 20 years what I had done.
Well, that makes the point, which is Ross Perot, the billionaire, wonderful guy, interesting man, very successful business person. He got 20% of the vote, Donna, but he did not win one state. He didn't get one electoral vote. Mm-hmm. And what he did do was he helped elect Bill Clinton, because those 20% mostly came from Republicans, apparently like yourself. And so what we saw was that when we have splinter candidates like that, they will affect the election. Like Ralph Nader was a third-party candidate in 2000. And he won many more votes in Florida than 756 votes. But Ralph Nader was probably the difference between Gore being elected and not. So third-party candidates in America can be spoilers, like Ross Perot and Ralph Nader, but they are never successful in breaking the two-party system we have because of the electoral college system.
Mm-hmm. So you think even had Trump decided to run on the independent ticket, do you think he would have had a much better chance than anybody in history, even Ross Perot?
I don't. Well, I guess we'll never know. But no one has ever been successful at that. Teddy Roosevelt tried. He was a very popular guy. He'd been a one-term president, and when he ran as a bull moose in 1912 against Taft and against Wilson, he was the one that caused Wilson to win, because the Republicans split their vote. Remember, so Taft was Republican, Teddy Roosevelt was a former Republican in the Bull Moose Party. Now, he came in second and Taft third, but together they had many more votes than Wilson. But Wilson was elected president, and not a helpful president in my view. I mean, he was for the direct election of senators, for the income tax. The progressive movement in those days was not helpful to our republic, I don't think. And but our two-party system is very, very durable every 4 years. And I think if Mr. Trump had tried to be an independent, most Republicans would have not gone along with that. Who knows? We don't know that, but I think the cards are stacked against you when you run as an independent in America. And I just mentioned a couple of them that didn't work out. Teddy Roosevelt, very well known, and Ross Perot, who were spoilers, but they were not successful being outside the two-party system.
I know a guy in Alabama who's run for governor several times, and once he ran as a Republican, another time he ran as a Democrat, and this past time he ran as an independent.
Yeah.
And in my book, I don't know. It seems like you are just going along with whatever you think the flow is at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, folks like that. So should there be a little more, I don't know, a little more, because this guy causes chaos everywhere he goes anyway. But couldn't we vet people out just a little bit more, or would that be giving folks too much power in the system?
People can run. They can ask any party they want to be their nominee. But remember, in our country, the parties nominate the candidates in primaries. And so whomever you're speaking about, and I don't think it matters for our conversation, but he apparently convinced Republican Party to be supportive of him, and then he switched parties. Winston Churchill was a member of the Liberal Party and then became a member of the Conservative Party. He changed parties in the middle of his career because things that were happening and changing in society and in Britain. So parties, once in a while, successful candidates can change parties. Phil Gramm used to be a U.S. Senator in Texas. In the middle of the Reagan Revolution, he was a U.S. House member as a Democrat. He wanted to change parties, so he resigned. In a special election, he was reelected again as a Republican. He wanted the people to choose him, to have another shot at choosing him or not once he changed parties, which was high integrity move, I think, as part of the Reagan Revolution, as they called it in those days. So people do change parties, but not very often. Ronald Reagan talked about when he was a young man, he was a Democrat, and he would say, I didn't leave the party left me. But we just had in New Jersey, there's a spirited governor's race in New Jersey, and one of the Democratic mayors just recently changed parties to Republican Party as part of the debate in that state over the future of New Jersey and the level of taxation. They have very high taxes in New Jersey and New York, and those people live in that metro area. And we're going to see what's going to happen in New York City. We have a former Democrat governor who lost the Democratic primary to Zoran Madami, and now he's running as a independent for mayor. And then we have a Republican running as well. So you have three parties running in New York, and we'll see what happens. But the former governor Cuomo is trying to run as an independent to buck this trend of our two-party system. It doesn't work very often in America, even at the state or local. So we'll see. We're going to find out next Tuesday who's going to be the mayor of New York and what that does for party politics. I think we're seeing the we may have quite a civil war inside the Democratic Party if the party, at least part of the party, goes left. We'll see. Right now, they're having a family feud internally, but we'll have to see what happens to that party. I don't know.
I can't see them just like disintegrating or anything like that, because life is a cycle. Sometimes they're on top, sometimes the Republicans are on top. But I will say this about sometimes it's a mistrust I have when someone flips parties like that. Sometimes it seems to me it's the popular thing to do. Well, I'll be a Republican this time because Republicans are hot right now. This is that. But I'm going back to Reagan, and my granddad, lifelong Democrat. My grandmother had passed away, so my granddad said, "Donna, I want to talk to you about something. I'm going to do something I've never done before." Well, I'm wondering, got me all intrigued. What's he talking about? Is he about to remarry or something? And he said, because I used to love my grandmother, but anyway, he said, "This is hard on me. I'm going to vote Republican this time."
Yeah.
And I said, "Why are you?" Because I never thought I'd say today you would vote Republican. Yeah. And he said, almost the same thing. So Reagan had him thinking about that. He said, first of all, I would have never thought I would have voted for a movie star, considered him a movie star. He said, but I like everything this man is saying. And he said, Democrats are not where they used to be anymore. Yeah. So he was noticing that trend. The smart people will notice those things. So
when I was
impressed in that.
When I was growing up, the sort of shorthand was Republicans were for Main Street, in other words, sort of business, and Democrats were for the working man, as we would say. So blue collar versus white collar. And along the way, the Democratic Party, maybe through trade policy, through other policies, became a party that seems to be for the elites and for globalism and for those that are for open borders. We just had 4 years of open borders and sort of, sort of a disrespect for our constitutional history. And working people have gone to the other party, to the Republican Party with Mr. Trump, because they get up every morning and say, do I have a job? Am I going to lose my job to somebody who's here illegally? Are there, forces in the economy that are really hurting my family and myself? And so I think part of what happened was the Democratic Party went from the party of the working man to the party of government. And historically, we haven't had a party that's for government, more and more government, but rather either for capital or labor, as we say. But when the Democratic Party started to focus on, we need to have more and more government and services for people. Like right now, we're going through a month of U.S. government shutdown. It's probably going to be the longest in U.S. history. And it is over, in part anyway, food stamps and other benefits for illegal immigrants. And we want American people not only to pay for that, but to have our debt go up even more. We have $37 trillion. You would think we'd already have an emergency with our financing, but let's have open borders and let's give them, health care. And the people say, well, there's no health care benefits for illegals, but if they go to emergency room, they will get treatment. Nobody's going to say, you have a broken leg, we're not going to help you because you're illegal. They're going to, and guess who gets to pay for that? And 70% of hospital funding comes from government. I mean, the funder of hospitals is the federal government. And that didn't used to be the case. It used to be patients and insurance companies, but now it's the federal government. So when you look at these trends, the Democratic Party used to be the party of the working man, and now it seems to be elites, university mindsets, and globalization. Sorry,
That's okay. I wanted to mention this. We're talking about doctors and medical world as it is. My great-great-great-grandfather was a medical doctor, and he was actually paid with chickens. Hams, whatever they had there. So yeah, we have seen it go a long way in another direction. And see, a lot of us don't trust the medical profession anymore. Especially when COVID hit, and it's hard to do. The way I like to think about healthcare is when we go to the doctor today. I'll give you an example. About 20 years ago, I went to my doctor and he said I had injured my back. It had to do with taking a suitcase off of the overhead after I'd flown over to Europe to teach in Prague. And I injured my back, or at least my back hurt. He wanted me to have an MRI. And so I said to him, how much will that cost? To which he said, well, I don't know. You have insurance. And so that's always the wrong answer to me.
And I said, well, since we're on the topic, because I had health insurance for my company, I said, what will this visit about my injury to my back cost? He said, I don't know. We're billing your insurance company. And my point is that everybody knows what their last car cost. Everybody knows what price of milk and loaf of bread. And we don't have shortages for cars and bread. And we don't have huge debt because people are buying cars or buying loaves of bread. But when healthcare becomes free, it's very expensive. And Senator Graham, I mentioned him earlier, used to say, if I bought groceries the way I buy healthcare, I would eat better and so would my dog. And so I think one of our challenges is there are no price signals in healthcare. And we have politicians say healthcare is a right. Well, maybe housing is a right, and then clothing and food is a right, and then pretty soon you have Cuba, right? You have systems that are unsustainable because nobody knows what anything costs. So prices, the humble price that you see on a product is everything. It's very important to be able to compare us. Say, gee, can I afford that extra jar of olives, or whatever it is, or we're going to have steak versus chicken. But with healthcare, we don't do that, and it's a complicated story. And I realize that people don't choose to have health problems, but we can we can have different ways to deal with healthcare other than don't worry about the cost.
Well, that reminds me of someone who may buy a house from the internet looking at fake pictures that are up on the internet, and they don't go and physically look at the house. Yes,
they do it. And
I want to see it. I want to see it face to face.
Realtors have told me that. Gee, I just sold a house to somebody in New York. They're moving here to Virginia, and I had a camera and I walked through.
Yeah, I just get a camera and walk through. Yeah, and this is kind of like the people on the internet who put a fake photo of themselves, probably not even them, and they want to be friends. Because there's so much fake. I just like to see reality, and I do have an issue with someone who changes parties. I didn't 20 years ago, but I do now.
Yeah. Citizens can change parties all they want. When candidates change parties, they've chosen a party initially because they believed in the principles of that party. And if they change parties, I think what they owe us is an explanation. Mm-hmm. I've changed my views of things, and the party has. Somebody's changed. Mm-hmm. And because of that, so Edmund Burke said that sometimes you have to make decisions that are not popular. You're not required to always follow the popular will. You're required to explain yourself, right? Your vote or your change in parties. So if somebody changes a party, I think they owe a 3 questions deep conversation, and not just, I've changed my party. We don't have a lot of that in America. I don't think that's a big problem. But if somebody does change their parties, they ought to be able to justify it. And so there you go.
I'll put it to you this way. Back in the 1980s, I would have trusted much more than I do now. I just question everything. And you have to follow the money, and you have to see what really changed with them. They're going to bring the Democrat ways with them. We're going to have to call it a day. I can't believe this. An hour flies by. What would you like to tell the folks? How can folks get in contact with you for speaking engagements?
Well, they can write me an email, mcm@maibach.us, or they can go to Save Our States and contact me there, or find me online, Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm there, so they can contact me lots of different ways, and I will offer them a free speech, either online or in person. Depends on how big the group is in terms of how far I'm willing to fly. But there you go. Thanks, Donna. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Michael, for being with us. And thank you guys so much for watching. We definitely appreciate that. See you next time around.
Because of your overwhelming support, our $14.88 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing, including my classic standard My Pillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic My Pillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.